Hello all, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be talking about getting the OI data from NSE website. So I'll be using a popular method called web scraping to get the data. Since this is not the ideal way of getting the data from the stock exchanges or from the NSE website, hence this video is only for educational purpose. So what exactly is web scraping? So in simple words, if you take a screenshot, what you see is basically the data or the pixelated data what is present on the screen, right? In similar way, web scraping is one such process wherein you fetch the data from the HTML code or the data that is stored in the database. So we'll be getting the data from the NSE website. So since we're talking about the option chain, so this is how the NSE website looks like for option chain of Bank Nifty. And here you could get the data for any other index as well, be it Nifty or Fin Nifty. I'll be discussing about Bank Nifty. So here, as you can see, this is how the NSE website look like for the Bank Nifty option chain. So we'll be using an important Python module called request to send your HTTPS requests to the NSE website and fetch the data. And to send the HTTPS requests to the NSA website, you would need the URL, right? So to get the URL of the NSA website, so you need to click on these three dots on your Chrome, and then you need to go to the developer tools. I have it already open. So here, as you can see, this is how the developer tools for the NSA website look like. And this is the element tab wherein you see the HTML code of the entire website. And if you scroll to the networks tab and if you scroll to the name option chain indices symbol Bank Nifty, so here you get the request URL. So I could just copy it onto the browser. So I'm gonna copy paste the URL in the web browser, and what you see or what it returns is a huge heap of data. And what you see in the NSE website is also the same, but being represented in a tabular format with some graphics formatting being done. So we'll see how to get this data using Python. So let me go to my Jupyter notebook. So here I'm using the request module as I mentioned. So I'm using the request.get function to send a get request to this URL, and I'll just run it. As you can see, it just returns nothing and it takes forever. This is because the headers are missing for this particular website. So I'm just gonna restart the kernel, and you could also get the request headers from the developer tools itself. So here I'm just gonna go to the developer tools, and here if you scroll down in the request header, you see an user agent. So I'm just gonna save it. So I'm just gonna headers equal to, so I'm just gonna declare it as a dictionary, since a dictionary has both key and a value. So I'm just gonna run it, and here I'm gonna also parse the headers as well to make get requests. Headers equal to headers, yes. And here as you can see, I already have the data, and you could also verify it by simply getting the status code itself. So it could just be response dot status code, and as you can see, it's a 200. So 200 corresponds to a successful request. So now since we have the data, so as you can see, it's a huge heap of data as we see in the browser, right? So we are gonna convert it into a JSON format, and then we'll be using it, and then we'll see how the format looks like, and then we will also use pandas to convert it into data frames. So I'm importing JSON, and then I'm just loading the response text. I'm converting into a JSON object. So I have already converted it into a JSON object. So as you can see, I'm using the JSON Python module, and here you could copy the JSON object as a JSON file, and then you could also use any web browser which are very readily available and freely available to see the data structure. But I'll be using another module for that, which is this one, which is PyJSON viewer. So since I've already created the JSON object, so I'm just gonna parse this into the view data. And here, as you can see, this is how the data looks like. So here it has records filtered, and records is something. I'll just go to this option chain. So records is something what you see over here with all the user inputs. So here, as you can see, you have different expiry dates for 28 December, 3rd January, and then you have data as well based on the user input what you have given. So here, that's how the records is. And filter data is something what you see over here. Like let's say if I change the expiry date, I'm just gonna get another filter data, right? So that's how it is. So this is how the structure looks like in the JSON. So I'm just gonna close it and I will go back to my Jupyter. So here, as you can see, JSON object is the object and it has two keys, right? Records and filter data. And in records, we also have data and then we also have expiry dates. So as we have seen in the PyJSON viewer, so data is basically a list of all the dictionaries and expiry date is basically a list of all the expiry dates. So we are just gonna run it and you could also print it as well. So data. So data, as you can see, it returns for each strike price and for each expiry you have the data. And then likewise, you could also check the expiry date as well. So expiry date is a list of all the current expiries available in NSE for Bank Nifty. And and as you can see in the option chain, for deep out of the money strikes, as you can see, the liquidity is too low and there is not much activity being done at some particular strikes. So we are going to also see and have to parse this information into our pandas and get this information. So before parsing it to the pandas, we are gonna do some processing. So I'm just iterating for each expiry date and for each data, I'm just creating the data values for both CE and PE. So this is how my OI data dictionary looks like. So OI data is a dictionary with keys, expiry date, and it has some value. And next I have CE data, and likewise I also have the PE data. So this is how my OI data looks like. So this is the dictionary that I'm trying to create by iterating through every expiry date. So as you can see, I'm just creating an empty dictionary and I'm just iterating for each expiry and running it through the entire loop of data. So if I don't find the CE key, I'm just appending an empty dictionary. As I already mentioned that in the option chain, there is not much data for few strikes, right? Or either on the call side or either on the put side. So I'm just putting an empty dictionary to it. And likewise, it's the same. Like if I'm not able to find PE, if PE is not in data key, and then I'm just gonna append an empty dictionary. If P is there and if the P expiry date is equivalent to my iterator expiry date, I'm just appending it and creating an dictionary. So here I'll just run it, and this is how the OI data looks like. And here you could also print the keys as well. So as I mentioned, OI data is a dictionary and it has keys with respect to all the expiries. So I'm just gonna, even this expiry date is a list of expiry date, right? And expiry date is a list, and expiry date, exp date of 1 is basically the next expiry, and expiry date of 0 would be the current expiry. So I'm just trying to fetch the data only for the current expiry. So that's why I'm parsing the expiry date of the 0th index, and I'm just getting only the CE data out of it. Or I could also do it this way: OI data, OI data. So I'm just trying to get the entire OI data of the current expiry. So as you can see, it has CE and the PE keys to it. I could also print the keys as well. So if I print the keys, it has both CE and PE. So that's how I'm trying to get the data. So at the entire call option data, I'm trying to just give it in a CE variable, and the entire PE data, I'm just trying to feed it in a PE variable. And next we are, even these are dictionaries, right? So here I'll just run it, and I'll just try to get the type of CE. So here, as you can see, it is a list actually, since we are appending it, right? And appending is possible only in list, so that's why we have declared CE and PE as an empty list. And as I mentioned, CEPE is basically a list of all the dictionaries. So here, once I have the CE and the PE data, I'm just importing pandas, and then I'm just using the pd.data frame to give the CE and the PE data, and I'm just putting them in the variable CE underscore DF. So I'm just gonna run it, and you could just print C underscore df for the call option data frame. So here, this is how it is. So you have the same data in the NSE now in the Python. So you have for strike price, expiry date, underlying, and as I mentioned, for the deep, out of the many, since there was no data, right, for this particular expiry, so that's why it is just returning NaN value. So this is how we could also do it for the PE underscore DF as well, and this will print the option chain data for all the P's and the D's for the calls and the puts. So this is how we got the data from the NSE website using web scraping. So in the next upcoming video, we'll see how to do the processing on this data frame. Now, since we already have the data frame, so as you can see, even this is too much of a data with too many columns, as you can see, with bid, ask, bid price, underlying value, total buy quantity. So later in the upcoming videos, we'll discuss as to how to process this data and how to fetch only the columns or the variables that you are interested in, and also we'll see how to fetch the information only for few strikes, because as you can see, this is the data consisting of 125 strikes and we are not interested in all of them. So in the upcoming videos, we'll discuss about that. Thank you.